Hey, never on lumber. Yeah, the cheese on my bumper. Yeah, that's the girl right there, the boy right here. We call it Lusanda. Bad scooping now. Para fica tully I like bumper. Yeah, they see me, they snooze it. I keep getting high. I call that a slumber. Yeah, we on three, keep the dream alive. Get it till it die. Wanna live my life. Shiny right side, never switch sides. We low, keep trying to ride.
Hey guys, welcome to season 2 of Half a Corner Couch. I am your host, Lesedi Matsunyane-Fergurson, and I am joined by some of SA's greatest casting directors, just a few. To my left, we have Mashoba, Paddy, Mazibuko, most famously known for casting on The River and other Chedza Pictures productions. To my right, we have Ayanda Sithebe from Actor Spaces, and to my extreme right, we have Nolwazi, who I'm a huge fan of, I have to say.
Thank you.
It's really good to see you guys.
Great to see you too.
Yeah, I think I just feel honored, number one, to be in a space with you guys, but also, as much as our industry is so small, we don't really know of each other apart from maybe seeing the name on the credits. But to actually meet and converse like this, it's a really big deal. So thank you guys so much for coming.
Thank you. Thank you for having us.
Thank you for having us.
So being a casting director, I mean, I'll just start with my own journey. I kind of got into casting via production, but also coming from a very performative background, just in J with my family, my childhood. So before we get into like the nitty-gritties, I'd actually like to know your journeys into how you became casting directors in the productions that you've worked on. Paddy?
So how I started is weird, because I studied acting. And I suppose the way I got into it is because I was always a voice for the actors. So I was always that guy who was grumbling, like, why? You know, so I started in a different production before Chedza started.
Okay.
And I was just always the guy in the office, and I was working in production as a production assistant, actually.
Okay.
And I was just always like, no. And, you know, I would see the audition script and like, but why? But why that? Why? You know, and so my manager at the time, David McQuay, was like, you need to come here. So whenever there were auditions or audition-like things, when we needed actors for that show, I was always the guy who was front forward, because I was always the guy speaking on behalf of acting.
Okay.
You know, and that's how I got into it. And then when I got to Chedza, the first year I wasn't really a casting director, but yet again, I took an initiative without even noticing it. And then I became the casting director because they're like, you're doing it without even thinking, you know, because whenever there's a role that's needed, I'm that guy who's saying, we should do it like this, you know, and then that's how I ended up in that position, and they trusted me with it. So essentially, I'm a big fan of actors and acting, and I'm a big champion of actors and acting, and that's how I ended up as a casting director.
Okay.
Beautiful.
Ayanda?
Yeah, I think it's the same. And they always say casting directors are frustrated actors. That's not true. That's not true. But I started as an actor as well.
Okay.
I think for me, stage fright was a real thing. I would literally get sick as an actor. But I knew that this thing is so beautiful to express. But I then started falling in love with just observing actors.
Okay.
And I think that's where the love, like where it started, like just looking at these, you know, performances that looked incredible, and thinking about the psyche of it as well in terms of getting there, you know. So the passion of just observing actors was there, and it had to make sense for something, because you can't just observe actors and that's an art or that's a career. So it had to make sense, you know, and I searched for that for years. I explored in directing, I explored in so many things, coaching, which I'm still very passionate about. But eventually when it just made sense that actually it's casting, you know, it's putting talent together, it's putting all these amazing ensembles together. This is it. And like Mazibuko was saying now, when it feels effortless as well, when you like, I just enjoy it and it's beautiful and it just makes sense.
My journey is slightly different. So I started off as an actor, and then I received a call from a director. I met him as a director, and then we became friends. Holinigi, where they were casting for the second season of Intersections. And then he called, yo, dude, we need someone to read. the audition. So I was like, yeah, I mean, why not? And then went in. Then started working, right? Whatever it is that needed to be done, I was like, yeah, I'll do it. I'll do it. I'll do it. And then I generally developed a love for matching the performer to the text. But I'm also incredibly passionate about discovering new performers, watching performances like that excites me greatly. So that's where my journey for casting started many moons ago on the second season of Intersections. And I don't know, it's something I find I fall in love with each time.
Okay, cool. So just to give a bit of background on my side, after I gave birth to my son, I became a production assistant. But I was always helping my dad out. So my dad was the casting director, essentially, for a lot of the productions in the beginning. So I'd always help read for those characters, but also having gone through school and having studied and also just having always been around a set for practically my entire life, there was certain things that I could just pick up on. And I could be like, okay, this person would be good for this. Or if you were to put everyone in an ensemble, this is what I think it would look like. And just kind of give my input here and there. And then it then kind of translated more into him kind of taking more of a step back, And then, the decision was just there for me. And he's like, if I don't like it, I will tell you. But so far, you're doing cool. You'll let me know who you've chosen, why you've chosen them. Obviously, you would have the footage, whatever. So he would have the very, very final say, but that would mostly be for the principal cast. Then the audition process then started going through me, and also just being able to see how people perform differently, because I think acting is so subjective. Yes, we have these characters that come to life on a script and in a brief, but the way in which the actor tackles it and the choices that the actor makes in becoming that character, that is what interested me the most as well. And to see how they were going to grow it and what they were going to do with it, how were they going to mold it and play with it. That is what I really enjoyed. So that's me. Back to now what I was just saying about the craft and performances. What do you find is the most important trait for that actor to have in like those auditions, or when you guys are making the decision in casting them? Like, how do you then decipher, okay, this one would be perfect for this role? Apart from them fitting the brief, what's then that added X factor that makes you go, this is the type of person that I want to work with? Anyone?
I think there's a certain magic which you don't get often, and it's what you're always looking for. There's people who come in and, I don't know, they God sent or whatever. There's people, and I've had it a few times at Cheta, where people come in and you're just like, that's him, that's the one. And it's no one else. I think of Utabi, who played Moren.
Oh.
You know, who, there were a lot of way more experienced actors than him, but he came in and it was effortless. I can't even explain it. Like that's the thing. That's the one. I think I suppose, you know, they say casting directors always have a third eye, right?
Yeah.
He
Intuition.
He initially, like, that third eye is always bored most of the time because people always come and just do the same thing. But he came in and then it was like, wow. And you know, he was the only one who, I think, when he came in for that reading, he was the only one who I personally took my personal phone out for, and I was like, can I please take a photo of you? You know, and then I took his photo and I sent it to Abu Pesi and the people that I work for, and I was like, no, this is the guy. Without even seeing someone else, I was like, no, this is the guy. So there's a magic or you can't explain it about it, that when an actor comes in. But apart from them, you know, the magic, because you don't always get it, but you always have to cast.
Yeah.
Right? So you can't say no one really came and did the thing. For me, it's creativity. It's when someone thinks beyond what's on the page that really says it for me. When you can't, when actors don't, like it's one thing to say, Wuti, I know the lines and okay, that's impressive.
Yeah.
But what else have you created for that scene? And once you don't, so like you ask an actor, like, okay, so you sit and like, okay, where are you? He's like, what do you mean? I'm like, where are you? He's like, I'm at home. What are you doing? I'm counting money. I'm like, okay, where's the entrance? Where's the exit? Where's, you know, this thing that we're talking about in this scene, this impending doom, where is it coming from?
Yeah.
You know, and it's like, oh shit. Oh, I'm like, yeah, because that's what you, once you see that in actors, that they know the danger is coming from there, and so their performance, even though it's for the camera, you can tell there's a sense of danger coming from there. You know, and that's the thing you look for in an actor, like someone who will give it way more and detail it, you know, in a way that even you as a casting director is like, shit, I'm not just casting, I'm not just auditioning, but I'm getting a very good performance for free.
Yeah. For me, it's not even about acting. I'm not excited by acting. It's being.
Yes.
And there's a difference between the two, right? You can very see a performer who's acting this role and trying to convince you than someone who's living it, right? Then it's connected to something deeper. Then for me, you've done the homework. You've analyzed the script, like the text. What are you given? Who is this person? What is their journey? By the end of the scene, what is their message? What are they wanting to leave you as an audience with? What is their objective, right? So that understanding for me becomes incredibly important. But also, you're a teachable performer. And if you translate that into an audition setting, can we direct you? So yes, there is a way that you have prepared it, you know what I mean? And we're not saying it's not great. However, how about maybe you try this? Or you are performing with Paddy. Paddy is coming with a different energy, right? Are you able to be susceptible to that and react instinctively and intuitively to that? You know what I mean? I think that's such an important quality, that you don't become so stuck in your own preparation, in your own idea of what this is, that you are now not paying attention and receiving everything that is around you and implementing that.
Just to ask a question off of what you've just said now, ever since COVID hit, there has been, I mean, we were all under level 5 lockdown. Then when it came back to level 4 and productions were able to start shooting again, then when it came to us having to audition, it couldn't be in person. And then came the birth of self-tape. So going back onto what you were saying about if they are teachable and they're being able to take direction, which was a lot easier in a live audition, do you feel that self-tapes have now become an obstacle in finding the correct character at that moment? Because you're literally going off of the final product that the actor, have sent.
I don't find it a hindrance at all. In fact, when you're really watching this performance, the end result is to see it on the other side of a lens, right? So then we're able to see your features, we're able to see your interpretation. The energy in a room when a performer is performing can be very different to when you're watching it on screen. Or how you see them, right? And then on screen, so you walk in, we see you looking 17, but on screen you can easily read 23, 25, right? So I think that's also an important element to the audition process, right? Is now actually seeing the final result. What could this person look like, right? And then working backwards. Okay, so now we have seen what this person can look like. Now let's bring them in and let's work with them and see if this is someone we can work with that can be molded into what it is we're looking for.
Okay.
I think for me, just to go back to your first question, is it's always searching for that magic. Like, as a casting director, your prayer is that the right person walks into the room, and that's the person. We wanna get the job done, right? Obviously, we're giving our all, but we want the right person to walk into the room. So yes, you are just searching for that magic. But I think for us as well, it's like story is king. It's like just immersing yourself in story, and you're like, this is what I want to serve, you know? And we see less and less of that where people are reading the text, like Nolwazi was saying now. And you see it when an actor comes in, like, okay, maybe you didn't do as much reading as you were supposed to do with the little that you got.
Yeah.
Because probably we don't have the privilege to send out the full scripts and so forth. But for me, it's always like the story is king, and I want to serve that as honest, as you know, as passionate as I can serve that story. But the magic, you can't steal that away, you know, from the moment when it happens. I remember when we were doing The Wife.
Yeah.
And we struggled for Bonko, who played,
Khele.
is it Mkhele?
Yeah,
Yes,
Mkhele.
Mkhele,
Yeah, the first Mkhele,
and
yeah.
Bali. But when they walked in, the energy was so right. We're like, this guy, he was prepared. He was dressed a certain way. You could see that he felt it. And I think it's to encourage the actors as well, to know as well when they see that this is actually me, I can actually go for this.
Yeah.
And we're also blessed with so much talent. So half of the time, you get them colors coming in and you fall in love with 5, 10 of them. So the richness of the talent as well, I think, just sort of makes the job slightly easier. But I think it's the effort as well that the actors must go in.
Yeah.
And with the self-tapes, I think Joburg actors were slightly behind with the self-tapes because that has been happening for years.
For years,
In Cape Town,
Cape
with
Town.
the international thing.
Yeah.
So that has always been there. And I think if you've worked indirectly or directly with MLA, they were doing self-tapes like that years. So,
Yeah, no, definitely.
Yeah, so it's been a thing that's there, but you're right, COVID just brought it to light. And I think it's an exercise where the actors themselves are saying, let me feel like I'm actually sitting with the casting director now and I'm auditioning for them. It's like real time.
Yeah.
Because we've seen the laziness that it comes with, that I've got time to do it over and over and over and over.
What do you think the difference is between having a casting director and not having a casting director? Because sometimes it feels like you just press and record. It's not always that you get feedback. I mean, like, there aren't a lot of casting. So for example, myself, I sometimes feel like I get too preachy or schooly, and I'm like, okay, wait, is this an audition or is this a
Coaching session?
an acting, you know? And then sometimes I'm like, okay, let me stop doing that, you know, because I found that, you know, you sometimes do that so much, and then when the actor's on set and the director, they're like, yeah, he's good, but I'm like, oh shit, maybe I overdid it in terms of in terms of coaching, because naturally that person wasn't going to go there. And now when they're on set and they have to do 10 scenes a day, they don't have it. So do you feel like, do you guys ever hold back thinking, let me not give an acting lesson, or let me not over direct this actor because no one on set is going to do that?
Yes. I've had to hold myself back quite a few times. Like, for example, when we're doing like in-person auditions, right? I will do no more than 2 takes. So your first take will be your own interpretation. The only notes I might give are like, okay, maybe try it in this way, add a bit more of this. And then that's where I leave it. Whatever that performer does after that will then be the final one. And then we will be able to see who is teachable and who isn't. Just in that moment. Because the more you then end up doing, then you really are giving a lesson on how to perform something. But again, it's subjective. How I might see this performance going versus how the director might see it on set could be completely different. I will say this as honestly as I can. I had an actor on one of our productions who auditioned, nailed it. On set, it changed, and I, for the life of me, do not know what changed. I don't know if it was the environment. I don't know if it was the interpretations or the directions that he was then getting, but whatever I saw, and it was a live audition, whatever I saw in that live audition versus the final product that we had on set by the time they wrapped was chalk and cheese. So I don't know if I'm the only one that's had that type of experience.
Yeah.
Always.
Yeah, it happens. I don't. For me, I've definitely learned to listen to my instinct.
Yeah.
And really be obedient to it. First of all, an audition is a job interview.
100%.
You cannot be arriving ill-prepared.
Yeah.
Would you do that if you had an interview for a teaching job, at a law firm, at a bank? No, you would not, right? Would HR coach you through the interview process? No, they won't, because the expectation is you have done the groundwork because you want this badly enough. So for me, now that goes back to your character, right? The type of person that you are. Because if already you are here, arriving ill-prepared, on set, what problems are we going to have with you?
No, 100%.
If you are struggling to prepare one scene, then what are you going to do when we now have to shoot 18, 20 pages on set? You know what I mean? So that says a lot about you. But also, just instinct, right? Honestly, in the room, you know, man, you genuinely know, this one's not going to work. And sometimes you like the performer so much. You want them to do well. But you also know instinctively, this is not going to work. That this role just might not be for them. You know what I mean? And I think it's important to honor that. Like it's very possible to make the error. You know what I mean? And that's human. It's very possible to have someone that you thought was ready-made. In fact, on the first time I cast on Intersections, so we had 2 actors come in, and there were a couple of actors who auditioned for that one role. One actor came into the room, and we thought, ooh, that was amazing. And then another one came in, and we were like, yes, that is a guy. Now, when we were all sitting viewing the audition tapes, the guy who in the room gave us the feeling of, yeah, we actually couldn't finish watching it.
Wow.
We could not finish watching it. It did not translate to screen. Like I was saying, that you know, that's the importance of self-tapes, is that in the room, the energy you can feel, you know what I mean? That the energy is there, you can feel the room, but can that translate to screen? Sometimes not. That's why it is important to not only view in the room, but also now stop. Go view the tapes.
Yeah.
Do you have the same feeling? Also check yourself, verify your own feeling, your own instinct. Does it translate? And sometimes it doesn't.
But also there's actors that are good auditioners. Like they've mastered that.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah.
They've mastered how they work the
I'm
room,
terrible.
the
wow.
text, and working you as a casting director as well. Where at the end of it, you really feel good, and you're like, oh shit, that feels good. I think we
Natural
got it.
charmers, they arrive and they
like,
finesse you. And
they get you and stuff like, and then you end up putting that forward to the producers and fighting for it, encouraging it. And then it gets on set, it's a different thing.
Right.
So there are actors that, and I think it goes back to what I was saying, it's just not serving story anymore. Where like, I just want this part, I want to get it, that's it. And I'm going to work very hard to master this moment and F what happens next. Where the work stops. It's not that the person is not good. Sometimes it's like, I've got it, now the work stops. Now let's do what we do. You know, it's like, I'm not invested anymore because I've got the yes. You know, so I think it's the actor attitude more than anything for me, you know, in terms of how they play it in the room, how they play the room, how they use that power to manipulate if there's such. But also, I think for me, is also you allow the actor as well to lead where the session goes. So it's not much. Sometimes you don't even want to coach because of the approach the actor has. There's an attitude of, do it like this, I'm out, you like it or not. And then there's actors who are curious naturally, and you feel that I'm just curious about what's the thinking behind this character, what's you know, and then you start having those conversations. and it's organic as well. You're not feeling like I'm coaching this person to get the job. It's like they're allowing you guys to have the discussion, have the conversation about the character. And I find that that's always so beautiful. So because I'm an acting coach, I'm always stopping myself not to coach the session, but to guide where the actor, is really genuinely curious. Because there are actors as well who ask you questions for the sake of.
Yeah.
Not that they want to do anything about that information. They just want to show I'm here and I know, or whatever.
Yeah.
And they throw those things.
I'm interested in your opinion.
So what were you thinking when I'm like, okay? And you see that energy as well. So I think for me, it's always allowing the actor to lead sort of where we go. Because at the end of the day, it's how bad they want it as well.
Yeah.
Obviously, without crossing the line of being too desperate. Because that's a turn off as well. When the actor comes in and you feel like they're desperate, they want it, and it's like, oh my God, okay, wait.
Yeah, I mean, to speak on that, I mean, we know the climate of our industry as it is, and we know, especially when it comes to acting, I mean, look, we're all freelancers, right? Our tax bracket sucks, and the jobs are not consistent. It's literally from one job to the next. Paycheck to paycheck to paycheck. So especially for those who are acting and have been acting, but haven't really been working consistently, be it either in a long form series or have done multiple roles in that same year, that desperation does kind of kick in, and I can understand it, but I do agree with it then maybe clouding the performance, because yes, you really want it, but are you actually present in that moment of your performance? So it's a double-edged sword, because it's like you get it, but then it's like, but come here. Yes, we know you want it. Yes, we know you're hungry. We are all hungry. We all have a job to do. If you do what you need to do in this moment, then cool. Then we can see and we can then move forward. It's just, I feel for actors in that moment.
I don't know, I feel we almost we have to get to a place where we respect our audiences enough to give them the right people who are going to tell the story and honor the story the way that it's supposed to be. You know what I mean? And I completely get that television is a visual medium. We cannot shy away from that, guys. Looks matter. Anyone who tells you anything different is lying to you. Looks matter. So if you are a performer and you are serious about performance, you have to be taking care of your body. You have to be. You have to be taking care of your skin. You know what I mean? And those things don't have to be expensive exercises or whatever it is, but just be cognizant of the type of industry that you are in. Flight attendants, all right? I'll give you an example. Flight attendants have a specific look. It is a brief. If you have flown Emirates before, they all look like they're born of the same mother. You know what I mean? There's definitely a very similar aesthetic. This is what we are selling. So the second we are dishonest with the fact that looks matter, we are also betraying ourselves, and I think shortchanging performers as well. We have to be honest with ourselves, and we have to respect performers enough to also give them that feedback that looks do matter, take care of yourself, right? And that coupled with your talent. Now imagine, already, right, you look good. And I'm going to say this in inverted commas because it's really in the eye of whoever's viewing. You know what I mean? Right? But you're equally talented. That's fireworks, right? So for me, sometimes I'd be watching a show and I'm like, I totally get why aesthetically they cast this person. They look like what this role is. This role looks like. This makes sense. I would have made this decision, right? But sometimes it doesn't live up to the performance expectation.
100%. But now with that, looks definitely do matter. I will agree with you there 100%. But what I feel has been happening in our industry, and it really is just my opinion, I honestly could be wrong, but what I feel is that almost every story for the past 4, 5 or so years, has gone with a very specific look, right? Or a very specific aesthetic. And certain stories are then told in very similar fashions. Are we then not also responsible for, yes, you can take care of your body, you can take care of your skin, do all those things, but if we are essentially looking for the same characters or the same looks of characters in these different stories, are we also not then doing the audience a disservice? And is the narrative also not doing the audience a disservice?
Yeah.
Because then essentially we are recycling the same aesthetic.
Yeah.
Whereas you can still have that look and have the performance and be that character, but that character can always be different. And that is what I have been struggling with as an audience member and also as a casting director, is that we're all really looking for the same person, or we're all really looking for the same look.
Yeah.
And because of that, there's a lot of people that are then left out of the loop, no matter how talented or beautiful they may be, but because this is the certain aesthetic that is being looked for, and it might not even be us, it might not even be production. There's also the broadcasters that have a say in what we do as well.
Correct.
Then are we also then not to blame, or how do we then try and get out of that specific bubble?
Can I take that, man? And this is the one email I always wish I could send to actors.
Send it now.
Yeah,
It's
He's got the database.
because like it feels like no one knows how much you fight for against that.
100%.
You know, and part of being a casting director is to learn how to get out of the way.
Yeah.
You know, so I've sat there and I've watched a decision. I'm like, I don't like it.
Yep.
But I'm not serving myself.
Yep.
obviously.
100%.
You know, and you don't make the decision. That's another thing people
Yeah.
need to know.
You make the base decision, and
casting directors don't actually decide who ends
You
up on
facilitate,
screen.
yeah.
You can facilitate the discussion,
Yes.
Yeah.
but it's not on you.
I
I'm just
hope
saying
y'all
that,
heard that.
for actors at home, Bantu, please don't
It's not
on
us.
us. And you didn't cast me, it's not me.
Then that's the email I want to
Yeah.
send. Is that like you don't understand how much I'm a champion of what of you, and I've thought of this in a million ways. I've thought of this as a comedy. I've thought of this as a drama, as a horror. I've thought of it, you know, and I can. And you make sense in a horror scene. So you know, so you always want to do that. And sometimes you do it in defiance when you audition certain people.
Yeah.
You know, you just say come. They're like, "Ish,"
Yeah.
but I don't. I'm like come.
Yeah.
Swagala.
Yeah.
And then you fail. Sometimes you win. But I think to some level you have to give in to some of that, because if you're not making this movie for your broadcaster, then who are you making it for?
Exactly. Yeah,
You
exactly.
know? So my thing is that, like, for every, let's say bad, I don't want to say it's bad decision. For every decision that's gone against my way, like, what keeps me going is that you're always going to help someone else make their movie until you make your own. And then so bona khona ke ukuthi ngempela Ayanda is that thing that you think he is, because maybe you might see why it doesn't work.
Yeah.
You know, because the other side of
the
this
other side of the coin, yeah.
is that you really champion people, and then you sit there and you're like, okay, I see why it didn't work.
Ayanda, how do you feel?
For me, it's twofold, right? We are unsung heroes as casting directors because of that fight.
Yes.
We fight a lot, but also we learn over time to balance it. It's like, okay, I'm going to win this too,
Yeah.
and I'm going to lose that.
Right.
Right? So you start
Yeah.
learning the art of balancing it. Like, okay, I've got 5 wins. It's fine. They'll
Yeah,
go with
have that one,
that.
take
Have
that one,
it,
yeah.
you know. So you're fighting for that balance, right? But also, I think it's also deeper in a sense of the writing aspect of it. And this is not to attack writers as well. I think we've got amazing writers in South Africa, in Africa. But I've sat with briefs from production to production where I feel like these are the same people.
Yes.
I'm like, you just changed the name.
100%.
But I was casting this person last week.
Yeah. Even the
And-
story is similar.
And how creative can I get? Because you are looking for this, and this next story is looking for the same thing. So that's the biggest challenge we have, and that's why, and you're very right when you say then it starts looking the same.
Yeah.
You can't avoid it. Even the story arcs,
Are
you know,
the same.
are the same.
Yes.
So I really feel like there's a huge investment that needs to go into the writing rooms. And I get it. It's what you were saying earlier on, that our industry is not giving us enough to just do one project and say, I'm going to rest for the entire year and go research and go. We don't have that
We don't have
luxury,
that time
right?
or budget.
You're writing next after next. As a creative, you are you are going to borrow from the next thing you wrote, or you and try and think it's different. But when we're sitting with it as casting directors, it's like it's the same person. You might even change the gender aspect of it or the race aspect of it, but you can still feel that the core and the essence
He walks
of this.
in and lights up the room.
I was casting another one last week who walked in and lit up a room. So now we have another one, and then next week it's the same. Next
So
week it's the same.
I personally think there's a bigger investment in terms of story. And I think that could allow us to open up to a whole lot of different people.
Yeah.
Because the question is, our stories, are they reflecting our societies as they are? If story is a reflection of life and vice versa, right?
But if we're all getting the same or similar stories, then the answer is no.
No, yeah.
For example, we live in a world of digital content creators. How many local stories have you actually seen that based on that? How many? Right?
true.
If you look at evolution now and where storytelling is, it's very much shifted from traditional media, right? Or even appointment viewing. There were the days of generations where at 8 o'clock, dark or blue, you are in front of the screen, right? Watching. Now, we'll stream in 2 weeks when there's 10 episodes for me to binge watch back to back, right? There's also similar stories that can be told in short story format on social media, right? Are the stories that we write reflective of that shift? They're not necessarily.
100%.
But I also can say that as much as it is important to invest in new stories, it is equally important to consume our stories, right? We have a society that prides themselves in not watching local content. You actually cannot, especially if you're a filmmaker, say it with your chest, I don't watch local productions. Who are you expecting to watch them?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because if you don't watch them, how are you going to expect people to watch
them? How are you going to advocate for yourself and what you do in your own industry if you do not consume the work that is being created by other filmmakers locally? And how are you then going to tell a different story to the stories that are already being told when you don't consume it, right? Then that's where duplication becomes even more possible because you have no idea what's out there. You are actually borrowing from an international audience and like, you know what I mean, like international sort of storytelling style, whereas as South Africans, what appeals to us, even our humor is different to British humor, to American humor. So how are you then going to write for us and create content for us when you do not even have your finger on the pulse of what is happening in our country? So it's incredibly important for me that we consume local content and be intentional about it.
But also, just to add, I think that's where we drop the ball as well. And I think that's where probably we need to... I had a conversation with a director, and they were saying, we need a Mapiano moment as the TV and film sort of industry.
Yes.
Right? We need our piano moment. And I was like, actually, to think of it, we had our piano moment.
We totally did.
And it was a huge one. And at that point, when we had our piano moment, if you go Yizo Yizo, intersection.
Yes, yes.
And,
No, that was that.
but then,
No, for sure.
But then
that was 20 years
but listen,
ago.
listen to this.
peak, yeah.
The look then did not matter Because if you look at
Yes.
Yizo,
No,
Yes.
actually, it was gritty.
It was
It was gritty. It was
like-
real.
Exactly. When
It
you're
was
watching
not-
it now, it's like Beishutang phone.
yeah, it's raw, and it's almost like a reflection of like, oh
It
my
was a
God.
mirror to
Society.
society.
Yeah, exactly. It
Even
was.
generations, talking about
Yeah.
generations, if you look at generations, it didn't look as pretty as we might think.
Yeah.
Oh, I
But
remember.
we were invested
Yeah,
in just
yeah.
the story.
Yeah.
It was just beautiful. It had pretty people.
Sure.
Yeah,
But
but
I remember the quality of. I think I saw a few clips back, and this is very, very, very off topic, but I have to do it. There's a video that circulated of my mom on social media. It was during when she was Karabo, when she had the cocaine phase.
oh yes, oh yes, oh yes.
About attention, everyone. Hey, and I'm just looking at the quality, the production quality of it. Back in 1994. That was proper production quality.
yeah.
It was fantastic.
Yeah.
It was
Trust
what
me,
we aspired
I was watching
to.
Generations every day.
So was I.
It looked great.
Well, I had to, but anyway. So, but then you look at that, and then you look at Generations, the legacy now, and it looks very different, and for a multitude of reasons, but to see the growth of our industry and our production quality, the cameras that we use, the set design and all of that matching with the times, but then our stories aren't necessarily matching with the times as well. And South Africa is too diverse on top of that.
Yeah.
Yes, we have certain demographics that watch a specific channel or they like specific stories, but where I then feel, and I hope I'm going to say this correctly, where I then feel that broadcasters, maybe production companies, and maybe writers are starting to kind of fall short is that because we've already gotten this audience by telling this specific story, it's then a situation of, if it's not broken, you don't need to fix it. Instead of on then improving or telling a different story that might still retain that same audience, but also bring in newer people.
Yeah.
So then the same story ends up being told again and again and again because we know, this is what the people like. But then that gets boring.
Yeah. We also have to bear in mind something I think we tend to forget. We're very much the minority.
Yes.
We are very much the minority. Where you have internet access, you have smartphone access, you have access to information that is beyond your own borders, right? That is very much a sort of like niche in South Africa and within the African context, right? So I always wonder, and it's a conversation I've been dying to have with a researcher at broadcast level, for example, is how much really is the feedback on social media that we see would trend, how reflective is that really to society? So when we're making a decision based on what is trending, right, or what is in right now, how much does that really reflect or impact society at large? Or are we making majority decisions based on minority feedback?
So I asked one of our directors, Krije, that question because it gets to you how thankless what we do is.
Yeah.
Right? And I was like, how long can you do it without the thanks? And her answer to me is that, Paddy, 2 people will say you're doing a good job. Only 2. And it's the 2 that matters. And I get that now because if you go by Twitter standards, everyone is great, everyone is not. Like I've seen awards given out on Twitter. I'm like, really? Are you sure? Legend. I'm like, yo, the bar for legend is very low.
Very intense.
That's a big one, eh?
But obviously, I'm not the one. I'm not there to crusade or to fight. But I've seen people being awarded on Twitter, as we might call it, and being called these things, and I'm like, hey, maybe my definition of it is very high, but I don't think that person belongs there. I'm not saying they're not going to get there, but everyone deserves flowers according to Twitter. And the opposite is true, like everyone is trashed as well. And like, I don't think you have any inkling of what it takes to make this thing. So why would you trash that person? So I think there's a part of it which is like, you really have to make it for me and Ayanda. Because we'll get it. Trust me, we'll get it. No matter what, and they said we'll get it too. Like, no matter what anyone says. Like I'm saying, you know, that person might be trash and that one might be called a legend, but we'll get it.
You will know.
I'm like, I know why.
Theater teaches you that, right?
Yeah.
Where it says, write for one person.
Yeah.
Write the story for that one person in the audience and hope that trickles. But I think the crux of what you're saying for me is in the research, right? I think it's one of the most neglected aspects of our industry. I had a conversation about the followers, like casting someone who's got 1 million followers. And I had a conversation of no, for me the conversation there was like,
we already know.
I know.
It's annoying.
But I was like, okay, great. Do we have a research piece that says if we cast someone with 1 million followers, that will translate to people watching.
How much of the
And,
percentage,
you know, and because I know if someone has 1 million and people are following them for a specific reason, which is beauty or whatever.
Yeah.
And when you cast them, you don't even, the story has nothing to do with what they stand for.
Yeah.
So by the time even that audience watches that person in that story and it has nothing to do with what they love about that person, you've already lost that half a million or that million audience.
That is the one thing I'm so happy for Chetsa for. Like, at Chetsa, I've never, ever been told cast according to this.
Yeah, I've also never.
Like, we've never. We've never done that.
But I think it's underlining. I think it might not be a conversation we're having, but you know a broadcaster wants to have that conversation.
No, I know.
Oh, and we fought.
They want to have it.
I know that. And the reason I'm bringing it up is not to oppose you or anything. But the reason I'm bringing it up is because one of my producers is very clear about that. He's like, if we're casting a influencer, it must be deliberate.
It's
not because
it must serve the story.
It's not because we're pretending that there's something else. You know, so if you want to cast Jabupule, don't call him Jabupule. He's a soccer legend or so on and so on and so. Don't get there and then expect people to believe Usbusi, you know, because he's not an actor.
And we have that as guest starring, right?
Yes.
You are given like, okay, you're casting these characters, but we want someone to guest star a certain role, and this is what it is. And you go looking for a guest starring role, and that's allowed. And that's why I'm leaning towards the research aspect of it. Because the research component allows us to teach our audiences as well. They are smart people, you're right. They're clever. And we like spoon feeding them, or we like they thinking this way. But I think research is such a neglected thing in our industry. We talk on things without facts, without any supporting things. And what hurts most is that there are graduates that are writing these amazing theses that we never see day or light of them. They just, you write it, and it's amazing research, beautiful research.
Have you guys, because it makes me very nervous. How often, because also, okay, let me start here. There's this word called channel, which is made to look like this other universe. Right?
No, China.
It's a mind that no one can question. How, because I've only had this experience once when I was doing Legacy, and it was profoundly interesting, right? Because I actually sat there with people from Eminent who I was like, I was like, speak more, because they had so much insight. You know, they were content consumers, never mind creators. How often do you as a casting director sit with channel people so that you understand? So that they can justify what you're saying when
Correct.
Have you ever, because maybe it's just producers don't want us to meet them, they're just like, but I would love to be part of those conversations. And when you meet channel people, I'm like, this person is shorter than me.
Let me tell you, I've had an encounter, or a few encounters with channel. And some have been in social settings, but I think more recently, they've also started to become a lot more involved in the final decision-making of castings. sometimes to our detriment as casting directors and also as productions, I guess. But I've sat in a couple of meetings, virtually especially, where they'd see the footage and they'd be like, okay, no, we don't want this one. No, how about we suggest this one? They have more of a following. And I'm like, but can they act? I understand why you would want them. I understand what the intention might be. You'd maybe want to tap into their audience, but considering the story that we are trying to tell, this might not be the one. And we've had quite a few discussions about such things happening. And I've always, 98% of the time, prided myself on not following that route. And it might have risked my job a few times, where it's like, no, I'm not going to be doing this just because you want this person there because they have this amount of following. It doesn't necessarily mean that that amount of people that are following them are going to watch. Because even then, from a social media perspective, let's say, for example, 300,000 followers, doesn't mean that you're going to get all 300,000 followers to watch. There's probably 10, 20% of those 300K that actively engage in their content. So what are we then expecting for television when that's just social media? If 20% of their following is who actively engage in their content, how many more do you think are going to engage with television?
I mean, I've never received the request or even a question or a comment about social media following. And in my experience dealing with channel, whether on any level, to be honest, has always been incredibly positive for me. And I've learned quite a bit, and it's really opened my eyes to
How often though?
Why?
How
For
often
me, it actually
yeah.
happens. It actually happens quite often.
Really?
When
Wow.
we're pitching, when we're pitching cast, I'm always in the room. I'm the person.
Oh, okay.
I'm the person who's presenting, right? And I've learned quite a bit in terms of how they think, what the decisions that they make, what leads them to that. And I felt that having that information and having that access to them has empowered me in my role as well. That even now in the room, I'm looking differently. I'm processing differently because I also understand their KPIs on a business level. And I think that's also something that we forget, right? Because we are artists, we tend to forget that it's actually a business. You know what I mean? And it needs to be a profitable one at the end of the day. So we cannot shy away really from the bottom line. So like for me, like that's been incredibly empowering and a very positive experience to be able to have those conversations with them, to be able to ask questions. Okay, when you make such a decision, what is it? But also listening, right? Just listening to the feedback. For me, it has been incredibly invaluable, you know what I mean? And it's empowered me a lot. And once you have that opportunity, it helps. For me, it makes even the entire process much more smoother, much more streamlined because of that information.
Can I just I'm sorry, I just want to piggyback off of what you were saying quickly before I lose this point. Because now you've then kind of sat in these channel spaces and you've learned to observe and understand the business side of it. Now I'm going to be bringing production into it. The business side of it and whatever budgets production then gets, and then we are tasked with finding these actors, but then the rates don't then necessarily match, be it experience, craft, the level of work that they might have to do in that series or in that time window. We are in a very, I feel like we're in a very volatile time as an industry where rates are not necessarily matching what that actor is worth. Doesn't that also become a bit of an obstacle in making sure that you get the person or facilitate the person that you think is perfect for the role? But now we're in an era where people are getting paid less and less because the budgets are now less and less.
I mean, first of all, you have to have a good 3-5 options, which are strong enough that should those performers be selected, you're comfortable enough as a production, right?
Okay.
But I also believe you have to empower the actors with the information. We really want you. We really value your work. This is how much. we have in the budget, right? And it's not a, hey, this is how much we have. Like, it's not a take it or leave it type thing. You know what I mean? Take the actor into your confidence. Like, just have a genuine conversation with him. You know what I mean? And leave them to make the decision. You know, do I want to take this or not? You know, because I also find sometimes we make the decision on their behalf. Meanwhile, and we know this in our own personal capacity, right? Yes. And you'll take something for 5,000. When you know where that 5,000 is going in your life? You know where Gucci is opesha gupi. You know what I mean? So, like, for me, it's just have that honest conversation with the actor and just be open. Dude, I know, right? This is how much I have. We really like you. Is this something that you would want to, like, you would want to accept? Like, I mean, sometimes there's the preempted speech, right? That you're given. I've heard it many times. Exactly. You know what I mean? Budget already. You know what I mean? But I think when you are approaching the performer on a human level, this is where we are. Is this something that you would want to accept? Even they going forward trust you because they know this person is dealing with me on a human level and they're going to be honest and earnest with me regardless of the circumstances.
Yeah.
Yeah, loaded. So loaded. For me, I was going to say, I do think that information does not trickle down, right? As enough information that should do. So even if Channel is doing that research, the information does not trickle down. And you're right, sometimes you don't have the opportunity to interact with Channel a lot around why this decision, why not? You know, probably as a casting director, you're down there, you're not even like in the room to like pitch the decisions that you made to reach that top 5 whatsoever. But I think if there's research, that information, there must be packs that just trickle down all the way, even if it gets to the actor. Because when the actor is confronted with a contract that says 1, 2, 3, or a budget that's the understanding of the business of it, I can make time for it to read stats, numbers, what, you know, where we're going with this, because that indirectly empowers the artist to start making those informed decisions. To say, oh, okay, that means, like what you were saying, I need to invest in sharpening this because this is what the industry is looking for now. The tone is here, you know, the look is here. Let me invest in that because the research says, or the information says. So I think that's very important. But also, I think the channels, these networks are so different. It's not even funny. I did an Mnet production, Reka season 2, and
lovely show,
beautiful show, and I had a privilege of casting season 2, and the process is different to a process that you find on another channel, you know, and then you've got, I had a privilege of now working with Netflix, like 5 titles, and that process was very different. Also, the beautiful one that I had is the CBS we're talking about, King Shaka, for CBS.
Don't mention because it didn't happen.
You never know. We did finish shooting it, so you never know where it can land.
I mean, it's there. I mean, you know.
Not Shaka Ilembe. King Shaka for CBS. They're 2 different shows.
But here's what was beautiful about that process is that when we were casting, I was reporting directly to CBS, but those were casting directors. That was like...
I'm envious of just that.
I love that.
That was just... These are retired casting directors who are working with you to make certain decisions before it goes to the executive. So the creative process of it, it's even the feedback, it's informed, it's grounded. You as a creative as well, you can accept it. Like, oh, it makes sense. I overlooked that this actor has this or this habit.
CBS, please come make more content in South Africa.
No, so I think it's the structure that we need to sort of start building here. As casting directors, you say, what is the structure that you want to introduce to the channel
Yeah.
and say, could we try this?
Yeah.
Could we set this so that it's collaborative? It's not just coming from one direction.
Yeah.
To say, this is what we want and this is how we want it. But like you said, there's an art in it, and we are precious about our art and our craft.
Yeah.
And yes, we should be conscious of the business, but again, if business takes over as well, it might take away the magic that we were talking about earlier on.
100%.
Yeah.
I think it starts really at the production level,
Yeah.
right? Sometimes as casting directors, we don't show interest in the production wheel, right?
True.
And the decisions which are made by production, why those decisions are made. And I think just that showing interest is incredibly important.
True.
Why does production make the decisions that they do? Why do we need to shoot an X amount of pages per day?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, why? Like, ask those questions, and it really informs even the type of performer that you get, because you are knowing, you are more knowledgeable in terms of the environment you are bringing this performer into, right? Just understanding their temperament as well.
Sure.
As a performer, their sensibility as a performer. Would they be able to survive this environment as well? So not only are you matching the performer to text, but also to the style of the production itself.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? How are you going to shoot? How quickly do you need to shoot? You know what I mean? Can this performer actually live up to this? Would they be able to survive? Or would they feel stifled and, you know, lack the stamina?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And lacking the stamina is not even about how old, how young you are, or how experienced you are. Some performers want to explore the story. They want to take the time. You know what I mean? They're about their artistry. So when you're putting them in an environment where now you have to cover 20, 22 pages, they struggle. And it doesn't speak to whether they're talented or not. They're just not the type of performer that'll be able to churn out 22 pages a day. So maybe this is a performer who, if you have a longer period to shoot and you've got 8 scenes to shoot a day, then that person is perfect, because then they have the time to go through the necessary process they need to give the performers, to give the level of performance that is required.
So, Nolwazi, just going back to what you were saying about how the actor would be able to perform in that production setting, and if they're able to do certain things, especially if, like, for example, when we shoot telenovelas, we have to do at least 80 to 20 pages a day because we have a certain deliverable time to meet. For newer talent, and I know a lot of us, as of late, I'll say over the past 2 years, 3 years maybe, have now also started doing open auditions to get fresh new talent. Be it either people that have studied or even people that haven't studied but are just naturally talented. How are we then able to integrate them into an already established, well-oiled machine like that, and then expect them to not crumble, because it's such a high-pressure job? And making sure that they're still able to deliver the best that they can, what they've already done in that audition and in the footage, but then on set, where they've auditioned to be a lead, and that lead is already in an A storyline, and they literally have to hit the ground running. Do you then not feel like we also, I mean, I guess it's also not really up to us, but we don't really give them enough time to kind of adjust, so that they're then able to give the best performances that they can? What responsibility can we take for that, or how are we able to facilitate that with production?
This is why, for me, it's incredibly important for casting directors to be more involved in production, right? So you're not just serving the function of identifying the talent, but also in honing it, right? Why not come to set every now and then and watch in VT, right? But also speak to the directors, speak to the series producer as well, to get feedback on performers, to provide that additional support to actors. Now, I also know that sometimes productions don't really have the budget to keep casting directors on for long.
Yes.
Right? So maybe you might find that you're really there for 3 months and then you will disappear and then the cast coordinator will be left on set, who is also a pivotal role within production itself. It has to be someone who has the eye for casting, who is able to coach. So beyond the admin that goes into cast coordinating, they also have to have that gift or keen interest, at least, in the field itself to provide that support.
Don't you find that very
structure.
suspicious, though?
Why?
That they don't have funds to keep a casting director? Because, okay, so I'll
I
speak.
find it suspicious that they don't have funds for many things. But
Yeah.
So no,
You're in a different environment, right?
Huh?
Yeah.
You're more in a different environment.
Yeah,
where it's,
and it's very much an anomaly.
yeah.
Because I think one thing we've learned at Cheza is that it's the passion and the character of the person that creates the role, right? First thing Percy Vilagazi said to me was be indispensable, and I've tried that as much as possible. And so I'm saying I'm a champion for actors. Like they are not just pawns on a board. Like I care about them. You know, I take them home sometimes. You know, because I think what Nolwazi is saying is incredibly important. Like I've always tried to make sure or to mentor as much as I can, because I think actors, all of us need it, but actors in general really need it. Like to say, don't stray off.
especially the newer generation. Because they have a very different perspective of what the industry is up until they are inside of it.
So you really have to have like many conversations with them, and you have to invest in the little things. It's the taking them to theater. It's the, you know, taking them to theater to watch shows. It's the lunches.
Suggesting a film, suggesting a book, just listening to their stories.
Just to keep them there.
I care.
100%.
I care.
And especially when one has to go with someone who has no experience. Okay, yes, I'm not a fan of it, but you can't dispute it. Every once in a while there's a gem out there who has no experience. But that person has to be cold. You know, and like, there's a culture that has to be instilled in them. And if we're not going to do it, who is? Because as we know, directors aren't always there for that, right? They just want to get their call sheet done. ADs aren't there for that. It's you that needs to bring them in
But also,
and take them out.
that's not right as well, right? I think the schools have a bigger responsibility, right? The schools teach these young actors, I'm saying the actors that went to school, right? And it's just that space, and never take them out
It's in a bubble,
to the real world, right? Where now I'm on set and there's 100 people and there's these big cameras, and that could be...
You are not the star you were there.
No, forget about it. Forget about
it.
it. But it's daunting, right? It can bring fear to anyone. I don't care who you are. I'm in a new environment. Everyone is shouting. Crew is moving with confidence. Everyone knows their story. And you are trying to figure it out there. And instead of focusing on the skill and the talent, you are trying to figure out this language that's happening here and so forth.
Have you ever cast a brilliant actor for 2 scenes? And that's the problem. Because then you ask the other actor, how was he? He was like, he was 1 scene away from being brilliant. Because like you gave him 2 scenes. No, he needed more. But I could and then that 2 scene actor, you see him on TV and you can never tell anyone he was 1 scene away.
So I was gonna go to say that the school has a responsibility there. It's like create those relationships with production companies where you can take these actors on set, let them see it, let them experience it. But also, I think we might be losing those directors that really care. So my first TV work I did, which was a drama, was with Neo. And
I'm sorry, Neo who?
Your dad.
Neo M. Matsunyane.
Yes.
So Neo came with this cool, he came with this cool bike. He looked cool and stuff like that.
Oh my God.
And but it was my first time.
He's actually such a vibe as a director.
He really is.
I was on set of Soul Buddies, with all these other young superstars who've been doing soul buddies for years and stuff like that. And I think he saw it, that it's his first day, first time, da-da-da. This is all new to him. And he was able to have a conversation that, listen, this is your scene, this is this. And that brought in that confidence in me, who I didn't know the environment. And I respect him to date, and I DM him and like, tell him how much I appreciate that about him. But he gave me that. He gave me that you belong here. And we know the imposter syndrome for a black child with all these white people carrying these things. And you're like, you feel smaller and smaller and smaller. And you need directors that can also spot it and say, oh, I need to have a word with you. And listen, this is yours. We're doing this, you know?
This is why it's important then for it's even more important for the casting director
have that conversation,
to be available to be on set.
Yes.
Because then essentially you are the first person this actor saw.
Yeah.
So when they walk into a set and they see you again, you immediately become a source of comfort for them. They already have an established relationship with you. They can ask you questions. They can reach out to you for whatever. You know what I mean? I'm not particularly excited about untrained performers. With the understanding and that studying performance is expensive, right? And not all of us can afford it.
100%.
However, there are things you can do. Print monologues. Go to your local library. Go to your local school. Find a book. Print monologues. Learn monologues. Record monologues, right? And actually practice it. Put it into practice, because it's very much it's building that muscle, that performance muscle. Recording it with your phone. Pretty much everyone has a smartphone now. Like the youngest kids have better phones than adults these days, right? Record, watch back, learn. So I'm not even talking about formal education here, but caring enough about the career you want to venture into to put in the work. You cannot walk in expecting that the work is going to be done for you, or doors are just going to open and you're going to run through them and flourish without doing groundwork. You know what I mean? So those things become incredibly important to do that. What are you doing in your own corner as a performer? And I say this as a performer myself, right? That it's still something I practice till today. I studied performance. I've been performing since I was a child, professionally. But even now, there has never been a point where I even walk away from the scene, I'm like, absolutely not. I'm still questioning, wait, you know what I mean? I still want to watch back. Okay, did the decision that I was making translate? So you have to constantly have that curiosity, which I find sometimes the younger generation doesn't really have, right?
I feel like they have a laziness to it.
Exactly. So for me, it is such an important quality to adopt, but also to nurture. Continue to be curious. Continue asking questions. Have a sit down with Paddy on set. You bump into him. Yo, dude, you know what I mean? Like, this is what the scene that I have today. This is what I'm thinking. I don't know what feedback you have. And then you have a chat about it. And you're also walking in more confident yourself. So you also have to take the initiative yourself as a performer to want to improve, to want to find out and talk to other people around on the set.
We need to embrace informal training as well. I think that's where the big gap is, where people feel like if I don't go to school, I cannot really achieve. I didn't go to school for this, you know, but it was like that. I'm curious. I want to know as much as I want to, you know, I'm going to ask questions.
Did you ever study? Sorry, can I just...
No, I'm self-taught, like
100% self-taught?
Yeah.
Do you know how many times
on...
Do you know how many times
but people must go to school.
I've
No, for sure. No, just I think I studied acting. I'm not... I don't know. Nolwazi, what did you study?
No, I studied acting.
You studied acting?
I studied acting.
So, hey, man, welcome.
Self-taught.
Self-taught, but we all ended up
here. Do you know how many times I've said to people, and you see the word training is a brilliant word, because I've never said to people, I'm like, what training have you received? I'm like, okay, what about high school?
High school. Local theatre,
yes. I started acting.
I'm a group.
So, if you just indulge me for 30 seconds, in high school, when I got there, I was this big chubby guy, you know, like, you need to do rugby. Mangfi, grade 8.
Okay.
Went into rugby, I played a match, I was picked, I was that guy. Then what you are trying, man? I was like, hey, what is it about this thing?
Yeah.
I went there, got chosen, and I started acting. The teacher we had in high school, I was in Donview High School, Miss Cunningham, was committed like you don't understand. Like she went to war. Besilwa for the drama. For,
The drama department.
yeah, for the stage plays.
So
whatever.
you've been an activist.
Yeah.
You know, so for me, when someone says my only training is high school, I'm like, that's great.
Yeah, you have
because
some
because
experience.
I threw myself from, because you know how it is in
Yeah,
from
yeah.
things and without even knowing which this thing even pays.
But also there is a discipline in
Yeah.
doing those high school drama plays. You have to learn
Miss
some
Cunningham,
discipline to
exactly,
acting.
because Miss Cunningham didn't fuck around. Like when she said know all your lines by Thursday, you knew them.
Yeah.
I've never had 100% for anything, but I've received a Best Actor award
Speaking
from
of
high school
awards,
because
Yeah.
Miss Cunningham, I don't know what she did, but I threw myself. I remember there was one stage play we did called The Mechanical Man, and I threw myself from a high because I have to come from the stage. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because that's what you need to do for drama, you know.
Right.
That's
I
dangerous.
only-
People don't do that.
Yeah.
There are stunt people for that.
Please.
You only learn that afterwards. Oh, people get paid for it.
Yeah. You know, but also studying performance. You study the performance, you study the art form itself. But then sometimes you don't know how to do that for screen.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because now that's a completely different ball game. On stage, you have one take, and you have been rehearsing this take for months.
Yeah.
So the chances of you getting it wrong are minimal. You know what I mean? Sometimes mishaps will happen on stage, and that's, you know what I mean? That's perfectly acceptable. But you have the opportunity to be rehearsing this. You know what I mean? Like for long periods of time. So that's why it's incredibly then important to be bendable, to be teachable, because you can come from a theater background. I came from a theater background. I had no idea. I arrived, I was cast on a place called Home, and all of a sudden, my brother is Roni Nyakale, who I was watching at home a couple of months ago playing Papa Action. I'm like, what?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I'm losing my mind, but most scenes I have is with this guy, right? Then now I can decide, where is my anxiety going to take me here? Am I going to be consumed by it? Or am I going to allow it to drive me to learn, to want to learn, and to ask questions? You know what I mean? And I was blessed enough to be able to be guided within that environment. So for me, and that for me, with any human being really, is a quality that far supersedes your talents.
Right.
When you get on a set, whatever position we put you in, whatever role you are cast in, are you a team player? That's very important. How do you treat the people around you?
Yes.
Respect, guys, I have to say this in front of the camera. Actors, respect crew. Please.
You have to.
Respect
You
crew.
absolutely.
Please. Like, there's nothing that frustrates me, that irks me, that just annoys me as an actor who disrespects crew. Those are possibly the most hardworking people on
100%.
that set.
And
They will wake up
they're
before you.
always your best
By
friend.
exactly.
Yes.
By the time you get, and
They make you look
they will
good.
guide you for your role to be better. They've experienced some things. I wish I kanje. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Oh, and all of a sudden, they become your best teachers, your best allies on that set. Respect your crew. So for me, that's incredibly important. Walking into a room, bingelele, just greet. Takes nothing away from you. Greet people, acknowledge people. What conversation are we having when you fail to acknowledge my existence, because that's what greeting is.
Yeah.
It's acknowledging another person's existence. There is no conversation we can have beyond that when you failed to acknowledge my existence. So just nurturing those relationships, how you intrapersonal relationships on a set, that is something that when someone is writing in future, they'll think, you're unfanele said. Yes, said on that set. Yes, wenzani. Find Lesedi. I want Lesedi for this. So if you are looking for longevity,
Yes.
within this industry, it's not your talent that will take you there. It's how you treat people.
It's your humanity.
How you speak to people. How you carry yourself.
And the guys like as casting directors, like we actually know what you guys get up to in other shows.
Hey.
We know your attitude.
The industry is a lot smaller than you
We
think.
do.
We actually, even when we pick you against all of that,
Yeah.
we are hlupha. But he's worth the risk.
Yeah.
We know, we hear. Uhlupha from uqala uyofika la uyinkinga wena.
Yeah.
Kodwa ke sometimes you're like, hey, ilethe lo ngeni.
Yeah, we've had a few personal favorites, but that's for another episode.
But we know, and we hear. And you know what you're saying is like, there's something about set. So my brother the other day, on Friday, he was picking me up from work. My brother is starting a cleaning company. He's like, yeah, you know, maybe if you give my number around to set, I can clean the set. I'm like, no, it doesn't work that way. Like, there's something about set which is so sacred that you don't get. He's like, yeah, but put me in. I'm like, no, dog.
It's not that
If I
type of
put you in, you
environment.
must start as an intern.
Yeah.
Because like what we do is so sacred. Like, I've never met a bunch of people like unit. You know, you can crash and if you come from set, who do you call?
Unit. And those guys,
they'll show
got
up
to
right
set
now.
2 hours before
2
everyone
hours.
else, and will
And they
leave
leave 2 hours
afterwards.
after.
When I was they're only arriving home or leaving set.
But when you call them and you say, I just had an accident,
They will come.
Yeah.
They
when
will
you call them,
come.
you say, "Mpele petrol, bus net
Yeah,
can."
yeah.
They don't ask me
Yeah.
to
Respect your crewman.
Bus net can, but they
Yeah.
not.
I see it.
Yeah.
There's something about said.
It's just encouraging actors
Yeah.
to also understand the entire value chain of storytelling, of
Yeah.
filmmaking. I think that the gap is there where you think
No, because I think
you are
actors
just filling up this
I
part
think they think
and
the
that's it.
magic is only for them.
Yeah.
Right.
But it isn't. It's like there's
yeah,
so much of
yeah.
us. Like we there's a brotherhood. There's something there that you can't get anywhere else.
Yeah.
I spoke to an editor who was saying, it's crazy how every time they see actors, they feel like I know them because I spend so much time making
Cutting the
choices for them.
footage.
Making choices for them.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, oh, I'm gonna go with this angle because
Yeah, you give a
I'm
better
gonna make you look
performance here.
good
Yeah,
because
yeah.
if I do this. But every time they meet, the actor doesn't know the editor.
100%.
But I know you so well because I've spent over 500 hours with your face
Yeah.
or so. So the encouragement there is like actors start reading those credits and figuring out who's this person.
Read credits. You just touched me there.
Yeah.
Read credits.
Like just know.
know who's
just
out
know,
there who's
just
doing what.
know.
Read credits,
You know,
show
find
interest.
out who's the editor
Yeah.
and if you wanna
Yebo.
know them. Because
Yebo.
I think when they personally know you as well, it changes everything.
Yeah.
How they make those choices on your behalf.
100%.
Speaking of editors, there's always the people who tell me how good my casting is.
So, okay, wait. Now that you just said that, thank you. Now that you just said that, right? So we are all casting directors that are very in tune with performances because we also come from an actor space.
Ah,
And
gotcha.
it's a
Gotcha. So I know actors have their own, for lack of a better word, egotistical competition between themselves in terms of who's better than the other. And obviously there's always these awards and accolades that acknowledge the actors, the story, the production. And I think we've all said it quite a few times that casting directors are the unsung heroes. Do any of you feel any competition with other casting directors?
No.
I've never.
No.
There's enough
Because-
space for all of us. In
because-
fact, I want more to come
There
in.
needs to be more
Because-
casting
I-
directors.
Especially
you-
this
you-
colour.
You know, I've called you and I'm like, and I have auditions. Can you suggest someone?
Yeah.
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 Because
yeah.
there's always someone he's met that I need to meet.
Yeah.
I called you a few times
Yeah,
as well,
exactly.
and vice
exactly.
versa.
So,
yeah.
so casting, the thing is that it's a very selfless thing.
Yeah.
Casting.
Yeah.
Yeah, if it's a very selfless thing. So I've had a few actors like who we've casted like, yo, I'm so happy that, and I'm like, no, dog, I needed you to come into that room.
Yeah.
That's how lucky I needed to be.
Right.
As much as you think you're lucky to meet me, I'm lucky to meet the actor. So this is how I feel about cause I know there's databases here that I haven't, because when you put someone in the wife, I'm like, why didn't I see this person? Like,
where did you get
was
them?
he?
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You cast someone in the Queen who was working for us, the crew member. I'm like, yo, we were sleeping on him.
Oh my goodness! That
So
was,
we were sitting with a gem.
The Queen casting of the Khoza Boys. 3 of them are unknown. One was well known. The one was part of lighting department for the
Yeah.
Do
room.
you know how
And
angry
the
I
work he
was?
put in.
was working
Oh
hard,
my
eh?
goodness.
Do you know how
Cheese,
upset?
if you're watching this, well done, my boy. We see you.
I
Well
was
done.
I was so like, I've been.
He
so-
was right under your nose.
And he kept saying, I want to audition, but you know, you think,
It's part of
But when I saw
You
the
also get
Queen,
those requests a
I
lot
was
from
rolling
crew.
on the floor, and I was like, yo, Mashoba, you were sleeping on Paddy. So every time I have an audition, every time I'm in a rut, and every time I can't go forward, I'm gonna call you guys.
Yeah, no, for sure.
Like, guys, yo, I need a Tswana guy, I need a Paddy guy, I need a Tswana woman, I need a Zulu woman. Because that's what, you know,
But you know what I've also
we're
found,
selfless. What we do is very selfless because we're not there. Because there's no best casting director award.
No.
But,
No.
but whenever you know, Wuti, you need to deliver to your producers in Interland, you will go everywhere.
Yeah.
And so I don't
find
think
the
there's a
person,
competition because like, if anything, I would rather we have like a WhatsApp group and I'm like, hey guys.
I think we actually should.
I was about to say that.
I think we actually should and
Yeah, I
actually
was about
create
to
a
say that.
forum
Yeah.
because I think we know the industry that we're in, and I think as casting directors, most of the times we feel very alienated because we're literally in and out.
Correct.
And we're just liaising with the actors. But if we are able to keep in contact with each other, not only are we able to broaden our database of performances, but also find other gems. Like you'll even find gems on your crew.
Yeah.
And that's happened for us a few times. But thank you guys for having this discussion with me. We really could carry on for much longer.
But
Get
wait,
a couple
wait,
of
I want to
reviews,
say
but
one more thing.
Go for it.
I think we are big fans of each other.
Yeah.
Like super.
Yes.
Like I'm a big fan, but I hate that I don't say it out. I hate the fact that I see Outlaws and I don't make the call to say, fuck, this is great, and I've seen this guy and I'm gonna call him for the next thing that I'm working on. I just think maybe the communication line could be better.
We
I
don't
think for
work
me,
together enough.
enough.
We're making a
But
concerted
I
effort
know
to do
we are
so.
big fans of each other's work. Like Paddy knows, like I'm a fan, like fan, you know. So we are fans, but I don't think we talk enough.
And that's definitely going to
you know?
change.
Yeah,
It has
So,
to change.
there could never be, because there could never be a competition amongst casting directors because I have someone who hasn't been picked that you can use again. And there's a guy right now who I'm a little bit annoyed because a director friend of mine called me and said, hey, I need a Tswana actor. And then I put them forward, and they're now on the show. I won't say the name on the show because I'm like, shit, I needed that guy for the new show. And I'm like,
But maybe the show
I'm
might not
happy
be on
because
screen, so it
that
might
guy found work.
Yeah.
So
That's-
you
which is
understand,
beautiful,
Wuti,
yeah,
they
that
can never be
ecosystem.
competition because what we're doing is selfless already.
Yeah. It's beyond us.
Like guys,
It is,
we are holding the piano for the actors to play. We're like, play it, dog.
Yeah.
Let them know how good you are.
Do we get paid more than actors or actors get
Oh,
paid
we
more?
don't
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for joining me.
Thank
We
you.
could really have this discussion for hours, honestly, but I don't think we have
We
enough
must have a
time.
part 2 of the casting directors.
100%. So thank you so much for tuning in to Half a Corner Couch with myself, Lesedi Matsunyane-Fergurson.
Paddy Mash.
Ayanda Sithebe.
Nolwazi Shange, we need a round table of this discussion with more casting directors.
Questions for them.
No, but also, you know what I also would want to add? I know we are wrapping up and I'm adding something. For the advertising industry as well, because that's also a different level of casting directing that we haven't really tapped into. So I think it will really be interesting to have a discussion with casting directors who work within the advertising field, and I think we have important things to learn from each other.
But yeah, so that is it from us. Thank you so much. Like and subscribe because it's YouTube, and we will see you later.
Thanks. Bye.
I never see